I'm Chief Chase Billdew. I'm Chief Police here in County DeWitt. This is Captain Christopher Fuller. He's the second in command here. To my left is Karen Rigney. She is the chair of the Police Commission. She's a town board member and the chair of the Police Commission. On my right, Sam Young, town board member, Police Commission member, and Karen Doctor, town board member, Police Commission member. So there are three voting members on the Police Commission. If you're not familiar with the way the Police Commission is set up in the town of DeWitt, 3 voting members. They come from the town board. That's your representatives here. There are also 11 other members of the community that are on the board. They're referred to as ex officio members. They're all watching this via Facebook tonight because we did not know what the turnout was going to be, and we were trying to keep the membership in the room within social distancing protocol. So the other 11 members are on Facebook tonight, so they're also hearing whatever is going to be said. I'll make a couple other introductions just because I see some people here. If I missed anybody, raise your hand. We have 2 other town board members with us tonight, Jack Dooling and Joe Chiarenza. We have Mayor Bob Tackman, Mayor of Village v. Syracuse, also a Police Commission member. County Legislator Mary Kuhn, and Town Clerk Angela Eppolito. So I'll give a little bit of an introduction in regards to the executive order and kind of where we're at with the process tonight. In June, Governor Andrew Cuomo issued Executive Order 203. That executive order requires police departments to take under some reform initiatives. It requires the Chief Executive Officer of the Police Department to meet with the Chief Executive Officer of the municipality, form a committee of stakeholders within the community to take a look at a number of police policies. I met with Town Supervisor Ed Mikolenko in early July. At that time, we decided to take it to the town board to impanel the Police Commission as the group of stakeholders that would comply with Executive Order 203. As part of this document that we put out prior to this public hearing, the biographies of each of those members of the Police Commission is listed in there so you can see how they represent different facets of the community for the town of DeWitt. In July 13th at the town board meeting, the town board also scheduled this public hearing. The thought process with that was give the Police Commission a couple of months to get started with the process of complying with the executive order, get a little bit of work done, and then present the work that has been done thus far to the public. Give the public a chance to digest some of that work, and then offer comments and suggestions on the direction to go forward with further work. So we're kind of in the middle of the process. I don't think people should look at this and say that this is the final document or all that is going to be completed. As part of this, we have until April of 2021 to complete the process, but we wanted to get some public input in the middle of the process to help guide our direction to it. Hopefully that makes sense to everyone. Do you have anything you want to add, Karen, Sam, or Sam? Karen, Sam, or Karen?
You want to talk a little bit about the concurrent county process and our...
Yeah, no, I think that's good. So, part of the executive order requires us to meet with the district attorney's office and some other stakeholders. So as part of this process, we decided that as a group of county police agencies in Onondaga County, there's a group called the Onondaga County Chiefs of Police Association. They met with the district attorney's office, and there was a decision made to have a countywide task force as well. The purpose being there are a number of principles or pillars that are outlined in the executive order. There's about 16 pillars to look at. Some of them require countywide answers and solutions to problems that we cannot necessarily influence completely within the town. We do it as partnerships among organizations such as ourselves, probation, district attorney's office. So the thought process was have the county police organization meet with other stakeholders on a countywide level and develop a plan that we can agree to as all the police agencies on Onondaga County as a countywide initiative. Certain things that all of us can agree to that every police agency can take on. We felt in DeWitt that there were some things that we could do more specifically in addition to that, so I've described it kind of as 2 parallel tracks. As part of our membership with the Onondaga County Chiefs of Police Association, we are participating in this countywide initiative. They will have they've already had their own meetings. They'll have some public hearings in regards to the countywide initiatives. But there are certain things in our plan that we can do specific just in the town of DeWitt. Certain things that we have complete control over. The trainings we send our officers to, the purchasing of body cameras, things like that we can influence in the DeWitt Police Department, but we can't necessarily tell other police agencies that that's how they're going to conduct their business. So our plan is to kind of go along these tracks parallelly, and at the end of this process, have the town board adopt both resolutions, the county plan, as well as the things that are more specific to our police agency. this plan that I put out this week and that I would like to discuss tonight are the things that are specific to the town of DeWitt Police specifically.
You might want to mention, Chief, how before this order even ensued, that our police department and our police commission sanctioned you to being able to do proactive things long before the issues arose.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that come out that, as part of, we're an accredited agency, we're both state accredited, we're accredited internationally through the CLIA process. So there's a lot of things that we were already doing as a police agency that really line up with a lot of the things that are required in the executive order. There's certain data that we keep, there's certain annual reports we submit to that are best practices that we've been doing for many years. But, the body cameras, for example, body cameras are part of this plan, but they were something that we had been talking about for years here, and we were trying to secure the funding prior to this plan even happening. They kind of happened concurrently, and it was just further support that it was the right decision to do that. So there's things like that happen, but, I don't want to focus and say, I certainly don't think that the answer to these things is that we've already been doing all the right things, there's no room for improvement. I don't believe that's true. I don't think that's the narrative that we want. There's always room for improvement, so this has certainly spurred some things on that we may have already been thinking about, but we're either moving along more quickly, or that it just highlights that we were already making the right decisions and the right thought processes in some areas as well.
I can answer that.
Go ahead.
I want to thank everybody for coming, and everybody who's listening in. This process is very important to us. We're very invested in making our police department the best it can be to protect our community and make everyone safe. And with that, we want to partner with our community. So your voices are very important in this whole process. And this is not the only time you can voice your concerns to us. We want to be accessible to you all the time. So if you get the copy of that, if you go on the town website, you can get our contact information. But as I said, this is a good process. This is, to hear what you have to say, because that's part of how we can be best. So thank you for coming.
So this time I would like to open it up for any individuals that have any comments they'd like to make. As you're aware, or maybe you aren't aware, we are live streaming this to Facebook, so individuals could view this that weren't able to come. Because of that, I would ask if you have a comment, if you feel comfortable stepping up to the podium so that your voice is projected loud enough so that the Facebook microphone can actually pick it up. We have some Lysol wipes right there at the podium, so if you want to wipe the microphone off before you speak, please feel free to do so. There's a trash container behind there. And so at this time, anyone that has any comment to the plan, I would ask to just come up, introduce yourself, and go ahead with your comments. I love it when there's a first volunteer. Thank you, sir.
Will it damage it if I spray it?
Yeah, I think we have one.
Hey, if you feel comfortable, you're the first speaker, so that's a win for you. But there is a Lysol wipe right there. If you need.
Where is it?
Should be right under on the podium.
Oh, okay. Take off my glasses so I can see. Hi.
Hi.
My name is Leland Whitted. I live on Eden Rock Circle.
Can you talk into the microphone?
My name is Leland Whitted. I live at Eden Rock Circle in DeWitt. I'm assuming the governor started this initiative in the wake of George Floyd incident and other incidents before that. And I think no matter what we do, no matter what we implement, no matter what procedures we have, the main problem is if you see someone, a police officer, on camera, and they're doing something that is obviously criminal and obviously wrong, far too often they don't get charged. Even the man that had his knee on George Floyd's neck for 8.5 minutes did not get charged to the second or third day with all the riots. That's the problem. Now first let me say this. I have a friend of mine who's a police officer. He worked in Washington, D.C., went to Henniker High School with him. Most police officers are good, but there's good and bad in all professions. All professions stick together. I'm an academic. If someone does something wrong, academics have a tendency to defend each other. But the difference with a police officer, you have a gun, you have power over life and death. So no matter what you implement, the problem, the way I view it, is that guilty cops, the police departments do not have a way to purge themselves of bad police officers. And then the other police officers, George Floyd was an exception, they usually take their side and defend them. And I can understand it to a certain extent, because it's a tough job. I wouldn't want to do the job, especially in a big city. But that's the main problem. There needs to be something that's independent. I was looking at the Manual Order 206, Complaint about Conduct, Roman numeral 4. It's generally handled by Chief of Police, Criminal Investigation, or outside agency. Number one, you don't say which one it is specifically. It could be the Chief of Police, could be Criminal Investigation, could be outside agency. I would argue it should also always be outside agency. What you need to do is have something independent and outside of the police administration. Because the police are going to defend each other, and I'm not saying they're bad or worse. All professions do that. You need transparency, and you need something that's independent. Even with this policy here to comply with the governor's executive order, when you collect all your information, you're going to give it to the police commission. At least five, maybe 6 or 7, at least 5 people on the police commission are former police officers, or they've worked in law enforcement. They have a bias. The bias may not even be, obvious. It could be subconscious, but they have a bias. And that is the problem. You need some independent people. Police are public servants. Police work for the public. Police are get their paycheck from the taxpayer. Police are here to serve us, and we should have an independent body. Police departments should have an independent body. Now again, the problem with the police, obviously I'm African American. I've been stopped by police many times. I've met bad police and good police. Most police have been good, but the bad ones have been really bad. And the thing is, there's no way to get rid of them. That's the major problem. And also, your plan is that you would have a biased counselor. I hope the biased counselor would be a person of color. And actually, it's an attempt to do the right thing, but I don't think it's quite enough. And my final comment, didn't mean to talk so long, you need to have some type of communication between the police department and the black community. Now, I've been online. There's not a large black community in Binghamton. It's 7 to 9%. But if you look at the northern end of Lemoyne College, that's largely black. You need some type of organization or something with the police to interact and get to know these people. Because the thing is, DeWitt is small. It's bigger than people think, including East Syracuse and everything, but still it's small. You could know the police officers. The police officers should know the community. But again, to reiterate, the main problem is, and again, all professions defend their own. The main problem is, I believe most police are good, but when the bad ones do something bad, the other police defend them, and there's no way to get them out. The district attorney doesn't press charges. They're friends. They know each other. They marry each other. Hang out together. So there needs to be transparency, independence, and more contact with the black community. That's all I have to say about it. Hope I didn't talk too long.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, can I ask that gentleman a question? Right there? No, you.
Asking me a question?
Yeah, I'm asking you a question.
Oh, yeah.
When's the last time you stopped with the police department and met all the police officers? Can you tell us when that was?
The last time I met all the police officers?
That's right. You said
No,
you don't
ma'am, never.
know, but you don't know. You live in DeWitt, correct?
Yeah.
When's the last time you stopped and talked to the chief or the captain right there?
Well, I was on the police commission, so maybe you're making
No, I
assumptions.
was just asking you when you did that.
Yeah.
And you made an assumption that all police officers are biased, or retired police officers are biased. How do you base that assumption?
I
You
base
have
that,
personal experience?
well, you gotta
Can you
let
go
me,
back up and tell us? I'm asking you.
you gotta let me answer the question.
I'm letting you. I'm asking the question. When I get done, then you can answer.
I would say that the.
Go ahead, ask the question.
Leland,
Finish.
Leland, can I step in for a minute? I would, if we wanna make comments, I would just ask that we make them independently up at the mic. I think that's I just think it's the most productive way
Well,
for
I'm
this
not
session.
commenting. I'm asking him a question
No,
directly.
no, I understand
He left
that.
the podium, so I
I
couldn't ask him
appreciate
a question before he got to his seat.
I didn't know I was there to ask questions.
But
Well, you
I mean,
made
to
a
answer
statement.
questions.
It's
and
okay.
you're
No,
go back up.
Go on back up and answer your question. Thank you.
I didn't know I was here to answer questions.
No, then you should have thought that before you made some statements.
I don't,
It's not here to be insulting.
I don't feel that anyone needs to answer
I
questions.
didn't insult you. I asked you a
No,
question. I wanted an answer.
If this meeting is gonna be about community time, I think that,
Let's get the community.
let's get the community involved on the floor, and then, I mean.
Oh, you made some broad assertions that the chief here doesn't talk to the
I
community.
did make broad assumptions. I
You
said no
said right
police
here that
officers are
you
good.
need a commission to talk to the people in the community. Hey, yes, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to him.
Hey,
sir,
Well,
sir,
I'm
sir,
just
sir.
saying, this is for the community, so I don't
You
even know
can talk
why.
all you want when it's your
Yeah, but I'm
turn.
just saying.
Sir,
let's
sir,
have
sir,
some
it's
law
not your-
order.
it's not your
Let's have
turn,
some
though.
law
Sir, I don't wanna
order.
talk to you. You're a little hot-headed. I don't wanna talk to you.
Go ahead.
I don't wanna talk to
This is
you.
about
Don't
the.
talk.
We've only had one.
I didn't come here to argue.
I agree with you.
This is a forum to hear from the public, the comments. We don't want crosstalk. Okay, if you want to have crosstalk, you can have a conversation afterwards, but it's important for us to use this time to hear the comments and not make judgments on them right away. We want to hear what they have to say. If you have something you want to say, please do come up to the podium and express yourself.
And after this forum, Ms. Rigby,
Pardon?
after this forum, there is an opportunity online if people want to make comments after our meeting is over, but this is meant to be a listening and a hearing session so that we can interface and hear what the needs of our residents are from each of their respective positions.
Is there anyone else who would like to make a comment up at the podium?
Yes.
Please do.
Go ahead, man.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Charlene Bright. I'm a homeowner, 101 Elmsford Road in the town of DeWitt. My concerns today is about cultural diversity and insensitivity program. I would like to know, in this police department, because I've lived out here for over 20 years, and I just want to find out from the commissioners, well as the chief, what are you guys doing to implement cultural diversity and sensitivity training among your officers? That's number one. Number two, my concern is what do you guys, I know you're out, and I get out in the community and meet the officers, because my two children graduated from Janesville, DeWitt, so I had the opportunity to meet, Chief Hildebrand, Conway, a whole bunch of the DARE rep, all of them, because my two kids graduated from Janesville, DeWitt. And I also would like to know what type of de-escalation training do you have your guys undergo in the community? Because I think that if they're trained properly in de-escalation techniques, then we don't want a situation where something arises in other communities and then we have to go back and say, I'm sorry for this, I'm sorry for that. I think that if we start ahead and make the community aware that these de-escalation trainings, they do take place, I don't know if it's once a week, once every 2 weeks, but I think the community needs to know when these programs take place and how do you guys are trained, are they trained on a level 1 de-escalation training, twice a week, 2 days a week, who's implementing it and who's overseeing it? Is it you, chief, overseeing it, or is it the police commission overseeing it, and who's actually approving these type of de-escalation training techniques? I know they're not on the video machine, so we take that out, but I just wanna know what are they doing in that, and I think the public needs to know that, so that we're aware that if something is happening on the beat, we don't know, like, if, I would just use an example, if a police officer, stop a resident or anybody in, the town of DeWitt. I didn't know, cause I'm a graduate from Syracuse University, I never knew if I had a problem with any police department until I spoke to my attorney from Syracuse University. I graduated, Gary Sumner, you need to contact the watch command. So I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, you should not be having any communication with the officers. If it's something that you disagree, you don't have a right to voice your concern. There's a chain of command and you need to call for the watch command. I didn't know that. It's only because of Syracuse University graduate and Gary Sumner, he told me, you don't have that issue to challenge your authority or say anything or not show your license or anything. You need to call the watch command. Then once the watch command comes to the scene, they'll take it over from there. I didn't know that. And just a lay person, I didn't. It's only because he told me that's what I need to do, and I said, okay. So I don't think, Chief, you don't understand, a lot of people that's in the community, we don't know the procedures. You guys know, but we don't know the procedures and what to do and how to do, and who you need to contact as chain of command. It's the police officer, sergeant, lieutenant, and then watch command, and then you. We don't know, I mean, to come over here, hey, Chief, I got a problem with officer in car 137. No, that's not the proper protocol. So we need to know that, and I didn't know that. Unless, you know, Gary Sumner and Chief Conway, my mom had a relationship with him, and he told me the same thing when I had an issue. I didn't know just to call Chief Conway, and he's like, I'll take it from here. I didn't know what to do, was it right or wrong. But, I mean, I did what I had to do, and I'm safe, but I just think as a resident, we need to know that. So those are my two concerns, cultural diversity and sensitivity training for all your officers, and the de-escalation training, how do you do it, and bring it to the public, to the full, so we all know, we all on the same page. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, ma'am.
Thank you,
I have some comments to make, but I've had surgery and I really need to be sitting.
That's okay, ma'am, if you project, I mean, the microphone's right there, so
Pretty close.
you're
The
pretty good.
microphone
can be disconnected, right?
We can take it to you.
I prefer not to use it.
That's okay.
I called, my name is Ernestine Cooper Rogers, and I'm her mother. And I had issues, with the police, but having been working in the public, having been a member of the AFL-CIO and local number 4, I am a former construction worker. And I've always been active politically. I've raised my kids to be a part of the situation, not part of the problem. And when she had some issues, with the police stopping her coming from work, and it got to be a thing where it was borderline harassment. And she had called me from her phone at 2:30 in the morning when she worked at UPS. And we discussed it, got Mr. Sumner on the phone, whatever, however. I called over here, no, I came over here, and Chief DeLaffey, and I bought my identification, her identification, and whatever, however. And we had a conversation. Now, I've always been a person that is about doing what's right. When the new chief came in, I picked the phone up, I had some concerns. I called him on Monday, told him who I was, welcomed him to be our new police chief, because open lines of communication is how you resolve issues. Calling, screaming, raving, and ranting, cursing is not gonna get anything, you're not gonna make progress that way. I I'm for progress for all people. I've been a mentor to my grandson's friends, and they were culture diversity in my home, where they were all of different cultures, ethnicities, call me grandma. And the thing is, you have to have a love for people. Not everybody can do what I do. I'm a different type of person because I was raised differently. And when you've been raised differently and you've been active in certain issues, you know how to conduct yourself. I've been in every court but the Federal Supreme Court as an advocate, as an activist, and I know how to follow the guidelines on what you should do and how you do it. And the main thing that I found out over I'll be 75 sometime soon. The main thing I found out over the years, if you get to know someone, and if you have a relationship where you can have open communication, something came up, I called Irene Scranton, and I said, Irene, I need to have these issues resolved, we need to talk about it. She got in touch with Sheriff Conway when he was there. Mr. Andrews was the commissioner. My grandson went to school with his daughter and know them. So they all know about me. And all I want to see is change done, that we all make changes. Bias is bias. Everybody has bias about whatever the issues are. Fortunately for me, I grew up in a certain way. And because I grew up a certain way, I've lived a certain way, and I have the capacity, and I've been down to Albany and spoke before the assembly about the criminal justice system. And I handed them some information, and they said, we're gonna have you back, Mrs. Cooper. Well, that was over 27 years ago. They never had me back because I spoke the truth, I told the truth, and I told them, criminal justice is a money-making business. You got more lawyers than you have doctors. Why is that? You got more people having lawsuits. I've had a couple myself. And the fact that this report, Chief, is great. I've been reading over it. I didn't get a chance to, I was trying to print it, my printer broke, so I couldn't print it out. So I got it on my tablet. So I'm the type of person, I read. I get the facts and then I speak. I've known Sam for a long time. Sam knows me from the Board of Education, advocating for special education. I've advocated against domestic violence. I have just been a person who says, look, let's work together. Let's come to the table. That report, 62 pages, it's great. It lays everything out that is about Thomas DeWitt. Fortunately, we have a document which is very informative. I would encourage everybody who can and has the time to go and read the document. I mean, you can't read it overnight. You gotta read it a little bit, read it a little bit, read it a little bit. And it spells out in the document the things that you're trying to implement. And implementation has to be done. I want to see us be ahead of the curve. I used to live in Buffalo, New York. I woke up and saw the news. This gentleman got pushed down by a police officer, fell and busted his head open. Then this news photographer in Syracuse got pushed down by a police officer. And when people see that, my heart just broke. Because a senior citizen has an older person, what if? You know, the what ifs. Would you want someone to do that to your mother, father, grandfather, brother, or whatever? We have got to get to a place where we judge people. Don't form judgment against anyone. When my daughter was getting pulled over by the police officer, I didn't come over here and raving and ranting with Mr. Darapi. I told him, look, Chief, here's the way it's gonna be. I said, here's my lawyer's card. They got one more time to pull my daughter over, and she's not speeding. She's coming home from work, and she called for the watch command. I talked to him, and I told him, I said, look, this has got to stop. She's coming from work. She's not out prostituting, okay? This is not what she's doing. when I had a conversation with, Chief DeWitt as a chief, while they got my daughter pulled over, you got a car here and a car there, people are driving and looking. What if one of those drivers takes their eyes off of what they're doing and there's an accident, police officer gets hurt, my daughter gets hurt, or somebody else gets hurt, or the civilian person gets hurt because they're trying to observe what's going on at 2:30 in the morning. Nobody likes everybody. We all have bias. But in a working situation, we've got to work beyond some things, and we've got to do some things. This is the perfect way of doing some things, okay? Putting it on paper is great. Action behind the words. Everybody can come up and say, well, this is that, they're biased, or this is that, whatever. When I saw George Floyd on that ground, and I seen that officer put his hand in his pocket and put his knee on that man's neck, I said, how could you smile, have that smirk on your face? How could you? Even if he didn't have a phony piece of money, was it worth it? Did it need to escalate to that point that the country is burning down? People are out marching, people are raving and ranting, they're looting. And like his daughter said, my daddy changed the world. Because people who would have never gotten up and went out on the street. And they're still marching. Then you look around, there's another one, and there's another one, and there's another one. I am sick and tired of hearing justifiable. It's justifiable. Now when someone shoots a police officer, or someone, judge gets shot, attorney got shot somewhere, it's wrong. It is wrong for somebody to take a police officer's life. It is wrong to shoot a judge, shoot a lawyer and kill him. We've got to do something different. We keep talking and we keep talking. I want to see some real action. I want to see real reform. And real reform comes with a change of heart. We've got to have a change of heart. We've got to see this person as a human being, that person as a human being, and we have got to do that. If we don't do that, it's going to be continually. Then you, over and over and over again. Law enforcement, sorry to say, a lot of them they never found guilty. The DAs, they dip around all kind of ways, and it's never where they're found guilty, they get to go to jail, but they get a chance to take people's lives, and there's no real consequences. They leave that department and go somewhere else and continue. I think that you should do a better background check, more emotional, psychological testing on these officers, because we all have bias, but the bias has got to stop. The justifiable, from the grand jury, as far as I'm concerned, it was a waste of money and time. Because every time they go to the grand jury, it's the same old thing. And then they want people to accept that. People are tired of that. We're fortunate that we live in a town where when I call the police, and they've been to my house, because of the relationship I had with Chief Anton and Chief Conway, those officers came and rang my doorbell, and we were told to come here. You must be somebody special, because the chief said so, get over there and see what Mr. Cooper wants done. Why? Because I'm kind and caring, and I'm respectful. Everybody that knows me in this room knows that about me. I am respectful. We've got to have the factors. We've got to change the way we think. We've got to change the way we react. When you call 911, they ask you, they want to know of the race of the person. When it's a one police officer. When there's a Caucasian person, I call. They only sent one officer to the scene. These are my personal experiences. I'm not speaking from off the top of my head. I'm speaking about things I've actually had to observe and have observed. There was a woman who called complaining to the police department. She dialed 911. I lived in the neighborhood, and she made a statement that wasn't true about this young man. 6 police officers came. And if I hadn't been there to tell them that, sir, this is not what happened. The police officer said, what happened, Mrs. Cooper? I said, let me tell you what she did. She created an argument with this man, and then she called the police on him. And then, if I hadn't been there to witness it and to help the officer to understand, he's okay, Mrs. Cooper, I'm gonna talk with you about it. You go outside to the other officers, you can leave. So, these are the things that we have got to be able to do. Stand up when you see something that's wrong, speak up, and do it in the right way. I didn't start cursing at the police officer and tell him he was this and that and that and this. Officer such a thing. And it de-escalated the whole situation, because they were gonna take him, put handcuffs on him, a completely innocent person who didn't make the statement that this woman claimed that he had made. And when the police officer listened, because he had reaching for his gun for this black male. He had reaching for his gun when he came to the door. And I came out and I said, no, officer, that's not how it happened. So we have got to get to the point where we get information. If you wait and get information, never mind what 911 says, when you come on the scene, find out, calm down, and not look at the person because of their color. You assume what somebody said is fact, when actually it wasn't fact. And then they wanted to call child protection because his children were there. I called the DA and I said, look, I'm telling you, I'm coming over to the court. And then I explained it to him. And then when they came to court, it was a different situation. And all I'm saying is, take the time to think before you act. Some officers do that, some officers don't. But we gotta have a better relationship. That report needs to be where people condense it some if you can, so that people make it available, not just online, because not everybody is computer savvy, that they can go in and pull it up, so that people actually know what you're doing, how you intend to implement what you're doing, and the time frame. So we gotta get beyond just meet, talk, and then we come back and we're at the same place again. Now, my second concern is mental health. I don't think there's 40 hours of training is not enough for a police officer to have mental training. Some police departments want to have a mental health person come along. Some don't. Some of the mental health people don't want to be involved with the police. They don't want to have to do reports. We can't expect the police officers to do everything. We got to find a way, because mental health is really, it's really very prevalent now. Suicide by cop is prevalent now. Mental health is a real illness. And many people are stressed out for whatever reason. However, some people need to be on medication. I've had experience with that. Some people need counseling. We can't expect the police officer, the law and order, mental health, burglaries. We gotta find a way to have some division within a division. Taxes are high enough here. You got enough money coming into this department, and if not, I'll be back over here. I'll be contacting you guys. Let's put some more money to these things. I'm not for defunding the police, because we need the police. But we need them to be, we pay this salary. We need them to take care of our needs as well as to put law and order in place. Now, we got a big enough budget, we care more about dogs and pets than we do about people, and I love pets. But let's put some of that empathy and sympathy in the areas that we can. It's not always about law and order. The perspective of the race of a person shouldn't determine how they're treated. If you treat, everybody should be treated with respect. I should respect you, you should respect me. That's why I picked up the phone on Monday and made a phone call, because I believe that we should be able to do that. Not everybody can pick up the phone, or will pick up the phone and call their police chief, or come over here. It should be accessible. Many times just came over, just drove over here. One of the girls asked me, what did I want? I said, look, I said, hold it now. I'm a town resident. And I told the chief about it. He said, what? I said, she asked me, what did I want over here? She didn't realize that I wasn't coming over for police about a case. I actually am a resident. When my daughter would come over here and go upstairs to pay taxes, the lady was very rude. We don't take cash, but I haven't come over here paying the water bill in cash. And I came to a board meeting, and I made that clear. I know how to file a complaint against civil service. See, so many people don't know where to go, who to talk to, and how to proceed. This is what we need to have, a better procedure, and it needs to be transparent.
Thank you, Mrs. Cooper. Your comments were really something to think about, and I appreciate you taking the time.
You're more
to
than
be here.
welcome. You'll hear from me again.
Yes, and you should, it's
Well,
a good
Karen-
message you're giving everyone.
Karen is I usually get in touch with Karen because I'm busy doing other things. Even though I'm fully retired, I'm doing other things. But I'll contact Karen, and when Commissioner Andrews was here, I'd contact him, he'd bring my concerns, and if it was a really bad concern, I'd have my daughter bring me over here. I believe in that, letting you guys know where you're falling short, where you're doing good, and this, chief, is a good report. I read the whole entire report.
Thank you.
And it's got some good information, and I would encourage everybody, or if you print it out, or if you can send people, if they want to request the report, if you guys print it out and give it to the residents who requested, at no cost.
That's definitely something we can talk about. I want to make sure everybody else has time to make their comments. Is there anyone else who would like to make a comment? Please come on up.
First, I apologize to this man here for speaking loudly and not turn. Sorry. You hit a hot button for you too. Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate your comments. I agree with some of the things you said and some of the things you've said.
And you know what? Sometimes your passion just gets next to you. That's okay.
Oh, it sure did. And I'm currently serving on the grand jury, so I can understand.
You understand, you know what it is. You know
I'm sorry.
exactly what's
Okay.
happening.
Right, as a result of serving on the grand jury, I just sent 7 letters of commendation to 7 police chiefs throughout the county.
Great.
My name's Mark Baldwin, I'm from Linden, which is part of DeWitt. I have nothing but high regard for the officers of the DeWitt Police Department, including sergeants, supervisors, captains, chiefs, past and present. I've had personal experiences with the members of the DeWitt Police Department. I'll say that I am amazed at the professionalism that they have exhibited in all of these instances. Having been a police officer myself, I can understand where some mistakes could be made. That's understandable. But I've never actually seen police officers that acted with such respect, intelligence, actual interpersonal skills. Sarge, you might agree with that. And actually problem and conflict resolution skills. Where maybe in the old days things were handled with physical force, nightsticks. The got here in the DeWitt Police Department, you should be proud because they actually have a way to handle on problem resolution. Now, is there bias in the police department? Sure. Is there bias amongst all of us as a result of our upbringing? Absolutely. And personal experiences? Okay, so we come to expect it, but we don't want it. So as a society, we need to resolve those issues in an amicable fashion. I think the chief's involved in that activity right now by putting paper procedures and policies that will assist members of this board and others going forward to handle those concerns in an amicable manner, fashion, and timely one, I hope, and a fair one, above all. So, like I said, I have deep respect for the officers that serve, especially those that are serving currently, as there's all kinds of stresses that they have to put up with, from internal stresses, family, and certain political upheaval that's taking place at this particular moment. So, that aside, congratulations and good luck in this process.
Thank you, Mr. Abruzzi.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak? We'll get you right after Mrs. Kuhn, okay, sir?
Oh, I'm sorry, did I jump?
No, you're okay, you're fine. You raised your hands at the same time and you were in the front row, so you know what.
That's why I said up front.
My name is Mary Kuhn. I live at 108 Orvilleton Drive. This was an amazing document, and I want to thank you for that. I did read all 62 pages, but I retained about 4 paragraphs. So you're right, you got to keep going over it and back and forth. But there's a couple of things. I wanted to amplify what the first gentleman was talking about. I do think that a civilian review board, I do like what you laid out in terms of going back to the police commission, but I think, unless I missed it, again, that's why I said I retained about 3 paragraphs. To consideration of a civilian review board, something separate, I think would be a useful thing to consider. What else did I want to say? Woman talked about, Ms. talked about site testing. And I know that you're constrained in terms of civil service, which really does impact the difficulty with getting a more diverse police force. But I did a tour of the 911 facility. And one of the things they talked about there, they of course have to also do civil service testing. But they do their own site testing because of how challenging, like police officers' work is very challenging. And you want to understand that the person who may have passed a test also has the emotional capacity to deal with issues of trauma, of the anger that you may deal with in the streets. And they do that, and then they try to work with the person about whether or not this is going to be a good fit. So that's a kind of a delicate thing, because you do have civil service. But anyway, I just wanted to raise that as something that I don't know if you could consider here, but just a thought. And also, and maybe you have site testing here, I don't know, I didn't see that in there. The other thing, what is the other thing I want to say? Oh, regarding diversity, now we have the Fowler School, which is, I think, preparing students. I don't know if you're already doing it, but I wondered about recruitment of students from Fowler, from a more diverse community, as you're looking for police, to fill police. But also, when I was a youngin', I did SAT prep so that I could get into college. And I wonder if there's a way, and maybe they're doing that at Fowler, to have prep classes for students of a variety of backgrounds to be able to pass the civil service test. And again, I haven't taken one in many years. And I know they've looked at the SATs as being biased towards more European American than other cultures. So that's another thought that I had. And in the city, they've been talking about the right to know law, wherein, and I don't know if you do this here either, when anybody is stopped, their request is that if anyone is stopped by a police officer, the police officers are equipped with a card that says their name, and their badge number, and then, you know, why they were stopped. You know, so in your case, they would have to have given you a card and indicated what you were stopped for. So that if you then have that, if you wanted to go pursue that with someone else, I just thought that, I don't know if that's anything that could be done here, but I thought that would be useful. And I did like your things about mental health. As a retired clinical social worker, you can't be asked to do all the things that I went to school for years to do. But what I liked about it is that you talked about engaging when things seem to get out of control or higher, that you use the mobile teams, the mobile mental health teams in the community to assist, so that they don't have to depend on being clinical social workers and a police officer at the same time. So I think that was a really strong piece. I was really happy to see that. I think that's it for the moment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Keeley. I don't want to get into a real long question and answer session just because I think that ends up dominating the conversation points and people don't always have the time to say their comments. I will let Captain Fuller speak real quickly just to the psychological testing, just because it's something we do already have in place.
Oh, you do?
Maybe something that you want to just hit on the test a little bit.
Yeah, I just heard it come up a couple times when you said it.
That's great.
Somebody else had mentioned it.
And that's in there, and I missed that, see?
No, it's not in your report.
It's just it's a standard, when we hire people, they go to see a psychologist before they take
Oh,
a number of
fabulous.
exams and everything, and oral exam. And we actually just switched to a different psychologist, we're always trying to get better.
Wonderful.
You know, so they do that, the polygraph testing and thorough background testing, so I just wanted, I've heard it come up a couple times, to assure you all that
Wonderful.
nobody's more thorough in background checking and psychological testing than we are.
I mean, we have had officers not make it because of they didn't pass it.
And you can deal with that relative to civil service because of civil service?
Part of the process is they have to successfully complete a comprehensive background. So if they don't successfully complete the psychological examination, then they don't meet the standard for being hired.
Being hired.
Or the civil service process that way.
Excellent.
Did you have a follow-up question on top of that, sir?
Yeah, just a very quick one. Does the town of DeWitt Police Department have a chaplain, which is common amongst other?
Yes,
We
multiple.
have two
Not-
chaplains. Yes, sir.
Perfect.
Sir, would you like to speak? Thank you again, Mr. Chairman.
Good evening. Hello, how are you? George Kilpatrick, Hampton Parkway, DeWitt, and I'm here tonight because I believe that this issue of police and policing and police reform is important. And I don't know much about the department other than I'm here to learn, so that's why I'm here. One of the things that I did notice within the report that I scanned is that about the implicit bias training that was also mentioned, and it's self-directed. And I was wondering if there were other ways to have engagement, a deeper engagement than a self-directed, press the button, okay, and then I go on. Because I do believe that there's something that happens in a room when there's a facilitated conversation, and I know that part of that plan includes some further facilitated dialogues if needed. But I think that if it's just hit the button, are you really getting at the hearts and minds of individuals to really create a space where everybody feels welcome and everybody understands what their role is in terms of policing and the role that they play. The other thing I don't know, again, I'm asking this question as to how the police and the community work together. Do you have other forums other than this where the police and the community get to ask questions? Is this the only time, or is there other times when that happens so that residents can be up to date and informed? So I'm sure that, so.
I mean, I can answer that real quick. This is the third conversation we've had specific to this topic, since the killing of George Floyd. The police commission monthly meetings are open public meetings.
So there is
So
opportunities.
It's a monthly opportunity for the public to participate.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I didn't even know there was a commission until recently, until I saw Reverend Alex talking about something. I said, oh, there's a commission. So I'm glad that I know that.
And obviously, he's a member.
He's a member of the commission. Oh, and I'm a 21-year resident. I should have said that also. Okay, 21-year resident. But I don't have anything else to say other than I wanted to just comment on that implicit bias training and making sure that it is as not just hit the button, because that's just, okay, I did that, I checked the box and I move on.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kilpatrick. else that would like to say anything?
I just want to ask a question, secondary to what Ms. Cooper was talking about getting the information out. And also, a gentleman mentioned about around Lemoyne and Springfield Gardens, which is also DeWitt. Is there a way to have more presence, like these kinds of things, more specific in different quadrants, where you might get more input? When we had our listening sessions, I think, we see that they're, as good and professional as I believe the DeWitt Police Force has been, we all carry issues. And we heard from African American residents of the community that have different experience with the police than I have as a white person. So it makes me wonder about, is there a way to do more of this which includes some of what Ms. Cooper was talking about, a distillation of some of this about your rights. What can you do if you have a concern?
Why don't you talk a little bit about what the police are doing to get.
That'd be great.
Mayor Tackman's here, Syracuse.
Yeah, so we've had a couple discussions about holding these things at different locations and
Right,
different venues.
right.
That's certainly something that we've talked about. I think COVID has put a little bit of a strain on certain things, so that was part of the Facebook Live idea and some other things with that. We have members of the commission that live in different portions of throughout the neighborhood. So, Sean Carter's a member of the police commission. She lives in Springfield Gardens. She's been on the commission for years. So we intentionally reach out to different individuals who represent different neighborhoods in the community to be part of the police commission. I think that certainly helps us twofold. It's a voice for the commission to hear from residents. It's also a voice that provides the police department and the commission an opportunity for that person to be an advocate for the police department as well, right? Speak to their community residents so they know what the police department's doing. So we talk a lot about community engagement. It's always difficult for us, honestly. We try to have community policing neighborhoods and group meetings, and they will start with a lot of motivation and energy, and then they will quickly, that individuals will bring the topic that concerns them to the meeting, to the first meeting, and then those groups die off a lot. So it's a constant struggle we're attempting to do. I think it's something that we want to address. Part of this plan is what is the formulation? We've tried a number of different things over the years. Like I said, we formed different neighborhood groups. We put different people in charge of it. We had a community policing officer for a while. That was when Investigator Andrews retired. We made a position that was just a community policing officer. That ended up kind of morphing into the SRO position, which is a whole other discussion we can, school boards have, and test boards have, and I don't want to get into that completely tonight. But, there are a number of different opportunities. I think that's a good idea. I think it's something we can talk about, having meetings in different locations. I think that some of it is you have to have a space that's large enough right now, and then you need to support social distancing and things like that, so all those things have to come into play. We might be able to have an outdoor meeting. We had an outdoor meeting in the village of Syracuse, which was really well attended and worked out really nice. They had a pavilion. So, like I said, this is the third one we've had. We could consider having another Zoom meeting, but that doesn't always facilitate itself. Individuals don't have access to the internet or computers or things like that. So I think it's worth maybe just discussing further what are other locations we can consider having these meetings that might facilitate larger participation from different residents.
But outside of formal events like this and conversations, when community groups or groups of neighbors are having events and they ask the police to be there and come out and meet the community, they're there. We've been to Springfield Gardens and the community center a number of times. When they have events in East Syracuse and they want police participation, not for law enforcement, but just to be out in the community, they're there. So if you know of groups of neighbors who would like the opportunity for some interaction and one-on-one time with the police, get in touch with the chief. The department is very accessible and very interested in doing community policing.
Thank you.
And we've had some fun activities with children and ice cream and.
Ice cream solves the world's problems.
The captain is being facetious, but not really.
Well,
Yeah,
I actually was joking with the chief about a month ago that we should drive around with like an ice cream truck and it would just solve a lot of issues. But I got prices on that. Two people together on ice cream going, that can solve a lot of problems.
Ice cream solves a lot, and children need to be able to see our officers in that community light, and every time that we have done such a thing, it has been successful for that community. So if you can think of any other children's groups or whatever it might be, so that we can come there. Remember, the town of DeWitt goes almost up, actually has half of the airport, as well as all the way down to the hamlet of Jamesville. So there's a lot of territory to be covered, and a lot of groups, I am sure, who, if they become aware that we are open to this, which we are, and in fact we love it, our officers would be pleased to go and become part of that sort of events.
I just remember a short comment. I read where police officers, when they have a mental health situation, I'd like to see them not putting that person in their vehicle and taking them to CPAC. Hopefully you can have a situation where you can call somebody from CPAC on the scene and they transport that person, because mental health issues, when you get in claustrophobia or whatever, you get into a police car, they might need some extra care that only a mental health person can handle. I mean, the police officer can do so much, but then you put them in a police car and then something happens on the way to CPAC. I think the police officers shouldn't have to have that responsibility. Call them to the scene and they transport that person to the St. Joe CPAC. I know, there's a lot of other procedures you can go through, but not every officer is gonna have the patience and to be able to do that. I mean, I know they're good, but you're asking a lot from a police officer to come on the scene, not really knowing that person's situation, not knowing the household situation, and they're trying to do all that they can do, and this person really needs a mental health specialist to come to the scene and handle that. Please turn it over, and they go on about to fill the report out. They transport the person, just in case they have a health issue, that the mental health people, providers or doctors or whoever they are, social workers, mainly the health issue. Because sometimes people have spasms, sometimes they're off their medication, and they're kicking and screaming and stuff, and the police officers have done all they can. But if you got that person or people, because they got mental health, those bans and stuff, but if you have something where you can work that way, make a call, and they can come to the scene and do the transportation. I think that was too much to ask the police officer to do all of that, too, along with the mental health situations. I think you'll have a better outcome if you actually have a mental health person who is informative and would know what to do if somebody starts spazzing out, if somebody starts doing something that they have the knowledge and they have the information and they have the medication, as opposed to a police officer trying to do all of that and do the policing.
Mrs. Cooper, I think we're all in agreement with that, and I'm just gonna make this one comment about that. The problem is that the mental health system has been defunded, and it has, over the years, it's gotten worse and worse and worse.
Can you say that again? I didn't hear you.
The mental health system, okay, is severely underfunded. And in a best case scenario, in my opinion, is for the county to have a centralized system.
Right.
Where all the departments wouldn't have to, it's not really possible or realistic for every department to have one person on call. If we have one system in the county that all the police departments could use, that would be great. Remember, it's the state, they put the money into what they value, okay? So mental health has been defunded over the years. So you are absolutely right about what you're saying. And, we need to rally the state to do that.
So because there's been a number of comments about mental health, I'd just like to speak to that for a moment. One thing is, in the response which the chief put together, together, you'll see that our officers do the crisis intervention team training. And that's all about de-escalation and responding to people who are in the midst of mental health crisis and trying to make sure that our officers are able to recognize what's happening with the subject and make sure that they're responding appropriately. And right now, I believe we've had 12 officers trained under the CIT program, and the goal is to have all of the officers trained under that program. But beyond that, there clearly are times when there are needs for mental health providers that go beyond the police, and that's why I'm glad that Legislator Kuhn is here, because she is our county legislator, and in addition to that, she's a career social worker with the Department of Social Services, and so she has awareness of how mental health works with the county. And Karen Rigney is right. This is something that really needs to happen at a county-wide level, and so I'm glad that the county is engaging in its own process. And I really hope that the county is considering ways that it can support the towns and municipalities with the kind of mobile crisis that you're speaking to.
Right.
To have those services available, because if we were to employ a social worker or a psychiatric nurse, we wouldn't need one, we would need 10.
10, right.
And that's not something we can do, but that is something the county can do.
Well,
Can I comment? I'd like to comment if I can on that.
Okay.
I'm on it.
Good.
Because I'm seeing what's going on, and I worked for Department of Mental Health for my
Right,
whole career,
right,
for 35
right.
years. So I'm starting to look at numbers like Karen is talking about. And just from, a brief looking at things, in 1971, we're talking about $1971. So these are dollars are irrelevant. Think of the percentages. 1971, $2.7 million went to the county mental health. $1.9 million went to the sheriff. Last year, first of all, I retired as the director of the Department of Mental Health clinic, which is no longer in existence. There is no mental health clinic in the county. But there are block grants out. This past year, $24 million went to mental health, $116 million went to the sheriff. That's the shift you've looked at over the last 50 years. Hutchings used to have a forensic unit. Now everybody's at the jail or Jamesville. So you're absolutely right. And as I started looking in, a lot of organizations have mobile mental health. CPAP does, Liberty Resources does, St. Joe's, everybody has, but they have their own for their own clients. The lack of coordination, which could coordinate with the various police departments. If you don't want to have a police mental health department, at least provide a coordinative function.
Yeah.
Because the police have taken over. If you look at the jails, you look at Jamesville, up to 40% of the inmates are people with major mental illness. We've transferred our services from mental health to the police. I did like, the police department does call on CPAP, for help when people are in severe psychiatric, in a psychotic state, of course. So yeah, it's a funding issue, and that we've got to, and this is what I'm trying to take a look at, not that I can do anything immediately, but we got to shine a light on this and stop looking at the police officers to be doing what mental health professionals should be doing. And to your point, exactly, when someone's in a mental health crisis, you sometimes also need a police officer, because when someone is really terrified in the middle of a psychotic episode,
Right.
you want somebody who knows more about restraint than a social worker does. However, the collaboration is what we need, and hopefully in the next decade, we can get that.
So I want to make sure everybody has a chance to, before we run out of time. That was great comment. Would you like to come up and speak to us?
Sure.
With the microphone?
Sure. I apologize, I've just walked in, so if I repeat some things or have missed some things, I apologize. I came here, I think,
Sure,
give
us your name, please.
My name is Tom Seal, live in Waterford. I wanted to say how much I appreciate the police. I wanted to stand to say thank you. I also want to say, on the other side of the issue, all of these issues are tough. No easy answers. I think we just heard the comment, not enough resources to go around. I agree with that, but I don't think we should take our resources from the police. Additionally, when we look to make changes, I want to make sure, at least from my perspective, that we protect the police, we understand their job. They go running in when we go running out. If they are called to almost every situation, it's gonna be trouble, it's gonna be difficult. I don't call the police when I wanna share a beer. I call the police when I'm in trouble. So I wanted at least to say that they do a fantastic job. It is incredibly difficult. And as we look to modify what we think they should do, let's try to remember, we don't want to take away from them their powers. We don't want to show ingratitude, and we don't want to say things like, you're not doing a good job. They do a fantastic job. We have millions of police interactions every year. A few of them end up violent, awful, they don't appear great. Statistically, they do a super job, and a few, there's probably an inherent limitation. As we look at our police procedures, I think we have to understand that there's only so much, you're never going to get to zero or perfect. Second issue I think that's out there is the interaction with the police. A very simple way to make the police interactions better: don't resist. I think that as we look around public service announcements to say, hey, right or wrong, don't resist. The police don't back up. That's not their job. Nor do we want them to say, if I'm pissed off enough and I take a swing at the cop says, okay, I got it, I'm leaving. We don't want that. So I think we got to make sure that we say, you know, one of the things that's in, as a perpetrator or a person that encounters police, it's in your control. If you say things like, yes sir, no sir, and if we have a problem, the lawyers are working out the next day. When you take a swing at the police, it doesn't end well. I also want to say, here are my police stories that I remember. You guys might remember Deputy Molesky Clark. Billy Blake is going to court, maybe it was in this building, for an incredibly small, it was a small event. He wasn't much of a criminal, no one ever thought he was dangerous. Police officer is sitting there, Billy Blake takes the gun, shoots both officers, not a good outcome. Ralph Bucky Phillips, same type of thing. Every single time a police officer stops somebody, their life is in danger. They don't know what's going to happen. It's a really shitty job. It's a really scary job. And thank God they're out there. I wouldn't want that job. You just don't know. And I'll go back on the mental health. I think mental health's a problem. But again, my wife is about 5'1", 110 pounds. I don't want to send my wife to a guy having a mental health crisis. He's going to pick her up and chew, you know, he's not going to have trouble with her. I saw the video in Pennsylvania. The guy came in at the cop with a knife, cop backs up, shoots the guy, and there's outrage. Turns out he stabbed 4 other people. To the comment that the woman over here made, in a mental health crisis, it's violent and dangerous. Regardless of the reason, we can't always say, please calm down and sit down. Sometimes we're going to have to do things to fight back or to restrain the person. So I think in mental health issues, it's both. We still need the police because they're dangerous. 4 people previously stabbed. I didn't enjoy that. Police finally had to take some action. So I think the police do a fantastic job. My opinion is they want to do better. I want them to do better. Your presence here tonight, and I believe you're the chief, shows you guys want to do better. But better doesn't mean backing up. Better doesn't mean every violent engagement is in some way the police did something wrong. My guess is, that most of those violent engagements, the police would rather have just said, hey, calm down, walk away. My experience has been with the police. They really do de-escalate. If I have any problem with the DeWitt police, is I wanted to arrest more people, not less people. And I had a screaming fight with an officer in the middle of the road. We had our cars pulled sideways. It was quite the scene. The officer showed restraint, was very nice to me. I understand your problem, sir. He wasn't violent, he wasn't anything. So I think we do a damn fine job. I think our police do a fine job. As you look, Chief, to revamp and to change procedures, let's remember how tough the job is. And most of the people in my world believe in the unfortunate need for police. I wish there were no crime, we wish there were no adverse interactions, but they are. Your jobs are dangerous, and they're also necessary. Without the police, I hate to think of how this world goes. And if you talk to your officers, I'll bet you they say the same thing. They're busy, they're overworked, they're stressed out. It's not an easy job. And, again, thank you for everybody who turns out to give suggestions. My view is community presence, comments like this, they all go into a pot, and people consider them, and we get some good ideas. I just wanted to say that as we look to improve, and I think we always can do better. I know every day I can do better than I did yesterday. I'm not proud of everything I do. But let's not forget, they do one of the hardest jobs in the world, people, and they do it well. Most, if not nearly all the time. I wouldn't want their job. You give me your job? No, thank you, sir. I don't want it. And the final thing, I don't know if I told the story. My wife, somebody kicks the front door into our house. My wife calls it in as a home invasion. Jesus Christ. Within 10 minutes, there were 8 cars, guns drawn, ring the house. I try to go in, the police won't let me go in, because they're going to go in first. And if there's danger in there, she's called in as a home invasion. God knows what's in there. Police went in less than 10 minutes. God bless. That's my comment. And I guess the final thing I'll say, I think the other thing to remember is when you call for help, medical, fire, police, who's going to show up first? I'm betting it's a police officer. And I'm betting response time isn't 5 minutes. If your mother's having a heart attack, police officers getting there first, guys. So let's do better. We can do better. We should do better. We always want to review. But let's remember what a good job they do and how goddamn tough it is to get out there. And so, and I also think if we want the police to do things differently, if we say to them, we respect you, we believe in you, and we'd like to help you, it's a lot better than if we criticize them and attack them. Right now, it's easy to attack the police. That seems to be the mentality. But let's not forget the reality out there. There's bad guys, we need the police. There's health issues, we need the police. And my experience has been that for the most part, you treat them with respect, they treat you with respect. And, I'm a pro-police guy, that's been my comment, but don't take it to mean that we shouldn't always be looking for improvement, opportunities, review. I think we should. And to your point, I think we need to mesh more than one idea. We need community resources, we need to work together. Just as you do that, Chief, please remember how important they are to our society and what a tough job they do, and almost every single time they do it well. And if it goes shitty here and there, taking a swing at the police. I'll tell you one final story. And I think it's Officer Nightingale out in Solvay. He's in my office. I said, have a seat, sir. We had called him, we had an issue. He goes, I can't sit down. I said, why is that? He goes, I'll break your chair. I went, really? He said, I weigh 275 pounds and I'm wearing 80 pounds of gear. And we just got to talking, and he said, and every time there's a little guy who runs, thinking he's getting away from me. And he said, when I run after him, and I jump on you weighing 350 plus pounds, you're getting hurt. No doubt about it. I guess I'll go one more story. My karate teacher. It may be funny to you, this is an important issue.
I know.
It is funny though, it is funny, but I'll tell you.
We needed something to break the the ice.
Well, we got good ideas all over.
We need some humor to go along with the seriousness.
And I'll tell you my final story, what the police get into. A guy named Tommy Hernandez, you might know him as a Parks and Rec commissioner. Tommy's my karate teacher 30 years ago. One of my friends said, I hit you with a baseball bat, you go down in a heartbeat. I hit you in the stomach with a baseball bat, you'll go down in a heartbeat. Tommy says, bring your bat. 5 swings. If I so much as flinch or make a sound, you win the bet. Greg hits him 5 times, and Greg's 5'10", 5'11", 180 pounds. Hernandez doesn't move. Also, when the police go to restrain somebody, understand that that person may be incredibly strong, and they may not be easy to take down, and they may be a big threat. Police officer will take me down in 2 seconds, and all he got to do is point to me, I'm like, sorry, sir. But guys like Hernandez, not necessarily, and you don't know who you are when you go out there. So, yeah, thanks to the community for coming out. Thanks for entertaining suggestions and points of view, and I wanted just to say, you do a great job. I appreciate you trying to do better, and together, we can all do better. Some ideas will be good, some won't. Comment over there I thought was best. We need resources, we need more resources, and it isn't this town or that town, it's a greater, we need a bigger body to put resources. So thank you for your time, your effort.
So we're running low on time. Is there any, first I wanted to ask, did anybody get an email, with a question?
I had 2 individuals that emailed comments that prior to this event. My plan was to share them with the commission, similar to as if they had been read here.
That's
So my thought was that individuals would email some comments in prior, which I have received, and I assume that individuals would watch this session, and after watching it might have some comments to make. So I was going to share those comments with the commission. I was just going to put one document together with all the text of all the emails and share them at the next commission meeting. That was my plan for comments that come in. And I would encourage individuals here, if you go home tonight and something comes in your head or you think about it later, then please email police@townofdewitt.com with any further comments so that the commission can look at it. And sometimes it's easier. It's easier to actually look in writing and give some thought to things. So that was my plan with the email comments that can come in.
There was a question.
So the response plan is actually a work in order. You'll be amending it and changing it?
Correct. This is not a final document. The document that I put out, the 62-page document that we've referenced, is the work that has been completed thus far since undertaking this at the first commission meeting in August.
We're about 3 months into a 9-month process, so there are going to be other forums. There's going to be other things that the commission considers, and there's going to be a number of months of opportunities for people in the public to comment and give us your ideas.
We're leaving enough time so that even though the document is due in April of 2021, we are working to formulate and shape and change and listen to what our residents have to say, so that we're not, we're going to be, thanks to all of you, ahead of the curve when it comes to formulating that final document.
Well, I have an action plan that I'm gonna put into place. Since I'm always contacting the governor, I will be contacting him letter-wise about this meeting and what he's requesting all the police departments in New York State to do, that the funding, the things that are needed, the budget, let's get this guideline. First, 21 is gonna be here before we know it. And if these guys need any funding, I'm an excellent fundraiser, and I'll be asking the governor for some things, because I've got some other concerns that I'm going to be contacting him about. And I think that if you want to be effective, you got to start where your money comes from. I mean, you're getting money from the taxpayers, but let's get some of this New York State money that they've got, that they're always doing other things with. They want you guys to do all of this. I want them to do some things, and I think they need to take some of that money and put it where it's needed. If you need to do grants, you need to do whatever. But Governor, you want this done by the 21st of April, just put some additional money resources into this so that it can be done and that our police force can do what needs to be done. They can hire the people they need to hire, and we can have a smooth transition. We can all come away from these type of things and we can meet. But Governor, if you want it done by the 21st, you gotta bring something to the table also. You just can't give out orders and you want everybody to do something. They gotta have some money.
That's.
Money makes the world go
Yeah,
round.
this is not new.
This is not,
Well,
There's a name for it.
Yeah.
unfunded mandate.
Unfunded,
Well,
yeah.
thank you, that would be wonderful if we did that.
Right.
But is there anybody else, this is last call. Anybody else wanna make a comment, to us?
Mayor?
Yes, please.
Can I say here, or do you want to go up there?
Come on up, come on up. So big and-
I'll be brief, I know it's the end of the night.
Come on, Mayor.
Okay.
So, Bob Tacko, Mayor of East Syracuse, commission member. I just wanted, I know we didn't want to go back and forth on some of it, but I think one of the recurring things was the engagement of the police with the community. And I know some of the commission members started to talk about it, but, I really encourage you to reach out to the chief with the email that he provided, to let us know how we can be more engaged, because that's probably, at least for me, one of my biggest concerns is I want to make sure that we get as much community engagement on this plan to ensure that we know. And obviously, prior to COVID, there's a lot more opportunities. And I know for myself, at least for the village, for the last, I think, 4 years it's been now, that the DeWitt police have been servicing the village, is, and maybe longer than that already. We've invited them to every village event, whether it's the ice cream social, if it's the fireworks. A couple of years ago, we did an incentive with bicycle helmets, handing out ice cream tickets to kids with bicycle helmets, just to help engage them with the community. And they were there. Not even a question of like, oh, we don't have the resources. We'll have someone there. No worries. And it's challenging to do that type of stuff now. But if there's anything they can do, and even if the officers can't make it, like the chief said, there's many commission members that I volunteer myself all the time, even if it's not in the village, anywhere in the town. I'm the commission. I represent the village per se, but I'm a commission member. I want to hear from everybody. And so please, I open that up to anybody. However we can engage, you guys know better how we can reach out to your neighbors, your family. Let us know.
Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you.
What he said.
Alrighty.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I think, it's an hour and a half. I think it's a good conversation. I really appreciate everybody that spoke. Like I said, I would just encourage individuals and, I don't know how many we have following on Facebook right now, but yes, Megan, we can post this up so it stays on, right? So individuals will be able to watch it later as well. So if you have thoughts that come up after this, please bring them to police@townofdewitt.com. We'll take all the comments that we had tonight, as long as any emails that come in to the next commission meeting. We'll continue the work going forward, and then we'll make sure that we notice publicly, obviously, with enough advance notice for the next time we're gonna have a public forum to continue to build on this. I'll try to find a way to maybe separate the documents so that you can see what has changed from this document to the next one, and try to do some focus. I know it's tough, it's hard to, it's a very complex and complicated issue, policing in general, and so it's hard to condense, our operations manual is over 700 pages long. It's hard to condense those things, but we'll try to do our best to at least highlight some of the things, to focus some attention, so we have some talking points for next time. So I really appreciate everyone. Thank you very much. I appreciate the commission members who came, so thank you, everybody.
Thank you.